Ever since ChatGPT came into the world in November 2022, people have been thinking more about if AI will replace software developers. And then we have Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang saying that kids shouldn't learn how to code, they should just leave it up to AI. And then Devin came out last month, the first AI software engineer, and Devin is pretty interesting. So Devin can learn how to use unfamiliar technologies, it can build and deploy apps end-to-end, and it can autonomously find and fix bugs in code bases. And the list goes on. So Devin AI can do a lot of things that software engineers are already doing, and so that a lot of people are asking if we're going to be replaced by AI. So with all the news about AI replacing developers, this is kind of discouraging for developers, but more so for people who are just starting to learn how to code, and people who are thinking about learning how to code, it discourages them from even thinking about trying. A few weeks ago, I did make a video responding to the news of Jensen Huang saying that coding is dead, so be sure to check out that video if you're interested in this topic. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to make yourself AI-proof as a software developer and make sure that AI doesn't destroy your career. So my name is Henrik, and I'm here to help you learn the software skills and tools you need to grow in your software development journey, and let's get started. By the way, if you're in the early stages of your programming journey, I've got a special gift for you. It's called my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a guide that will take you from no coding experience to building your first 4 projects. And the best part is it's free. It's a free gift to you. In this coding challenge, I guide you in 30 days to build 4 programming projects, and I give you some tutorials that are in C. But of course, these projects are really generic and really beginner friendly, and so you can actually code them in different programming languages. You can still benefit from this guide because you can just take the principles that are in my challenge and then apply them to your programming language. You can find the challenge in the link in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts that will give you a good foundation to your software development journey. So after thinking about this for a while, I think the main idea that you really need to keep in mind is that if you want to make yourself AI proof, you need to learn how to provide value that an AI coding tool can't provide. We live in a capitalistic society, so it's not really about how much you know or how many hours you spent learning how to code or how many tools you know how to use. It's really about supply and demand, and you have to look at what is the demand in the market and look at the supply. If there are AI coding tools that are supplying a certain demand, you don't want to be supplying the same demand because you're going to be replaced by those AI coding tools. You need to look at the demand that only you as a human can supply. Alright, the first tip that I have for you is that you should learn how to code with AI coding tools, or you should start using AI coding tools in your code. And so this is a really popular one called GitHub Copilot, and I made a video about this one going in depth on the value of GitHub Copilot, so you can check that one out. But I would recommend that you download GitHub Copilot, start using it to learn how to code, and also as you're coding your actual code, start using this tool. And it doesn't have to be GitHub Copilot, you can also look into other coding tools like Codium, but the main idea here is to look at all the AI coding tools and try to use one in your development process. A big reason why I recommend that you start learning how to code with these AI coding tools is that as you're using these AI coding tools, you'll naturally gravitate or start to focus on programming tasks that AI tools cannot do. Because say you're coding a project and you break it down into different tasks, then you can identify which tasks you can use AI to do, and you don't have to worry about that. And then you can look at the tasks that you actually need to focus on because AI can't do that. And so you're really going to be putting most of your effort and your brain power into those tasks that really require humans. So it's really important to look at these AI coding tools, observe them, analyze them, and see if you can use them in your workflow. And that's because you want to adapt with the times. And this is something that programmers have done throughout the years. I meet a lot of software developers and software engineers who have been coding for decades, professionally for decades. And they always tell me that the programming world or technology in general has changed so much over the years. And so they often had to adapt. They had to learn new technologies, new programming languages, and the things that they had learned in school, they don't use them anymore because they had to use the most up-to-date technology. And so likewise with us, as we're going into this age of AI, we need to be aware of the tools that are out there and integrate them in any way we can and use it to get better in our career. All right, my second tip for you, and this is probably the most specific that I'm going to get in terms of tips for this video, and that is that you should learn how to code in C. And C is really important because it really helps you understand how computers think. C is a classic and legendary programming language that all the universities teach, and it's really important even if you don't use C later on in your career. C is really important because it gives you that good foundation and helps you really understand the basics and the foundations of programming. So this was my experience. This is the backbone, the foundation of my software career, is knowing C. C is what I learned in university. Then I went to my first job. I didn't know any other languages. I only knew how to code in C. And then they asked me to code in C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, and also in my second job, C#. And I was able to pick up those languages because I knew how to code in C. And that's why C is really important, because it gives you that good foundation, helps you understand how computers really think. And so going back to this idea of adapting to the newest technologies, if you want to adapt to the newest technologies and you want to learn, pick up other programming languages and tools, C is really good for that because it gives you that, like I said, that good foundation. C is considered a low-level language, which just means that it's closer to the hardware than the other higher-level languages, and that just means that it can interface more with the hardware and make the hardware do things that the other higher-level languages can't. And here's a hot take that I have that I don't know if other developers would agree with. If you disagree or you agree, comment down below. But here's my take. I believe that higher-level languages are easier to replace with AI than C. And I believe this for two main reasons. And the first reason is that for higher level languages, you don't really need to know much about the hardware. And so if AI doesn't really need to know much about the hardware, it's easier to do its job as a programmer, as a developer. But for C, you really need to know about the hardware. You need to know how to control the hardware, and it adds a physical dimension to your code. And with AI, if it's just a console, or if it's just on the computer itself, it doesn't have a hardware or physical component to it, then it's going to be hard to assess and train that AI to be able to make sure it's developing code in that low-level language correctly. Alright, the second reason is that C and other lower level languages are a lot more complex than the higher ones. And what I mean by that is that there are more things that you need to worry about. For example, in C, you have direct control over the memory. So you need to be keeping that in mind and make sure that you're not having any memory leaks or some dangling pointers or any other buffer overflows. You need to worry about those kinds of small things in C that you don't have to worry about in the higher level languages. And so it's going to make the system more complex, and that would make it harder for AI to be able to replace or code in that language. And the big idea that I want you to get from this is that the more complex a system is, or the more complex a problem is, the more it is required for a human to be involved. And that leads me to my last point of advice for you, and that is to double down on your humanity. After you've been coding for a while, you'll start to realize and soon see that coding really is just a tool. It's a tool to translate what's in our minds, what's in the customer's mind, and get it out into a computer or some kind of device so that it could do what the customer wants. Your value in the market and the supply that you're providing to the demand in the market is that you're able to take the customer need and translate it into a working product or application. There will always be a customer need that is too complex for an AI or a computer to handle. If you think about call center representatives, we thought that those would be replaced a long time ago, right? But the value of a call center representative is that there are problems that customers have that are too complex for a computer to handle, so they need a human representative to address their problem. Even in grocery stores with these self-checkout lines, yeah, these self-checkout kiosks kind of replaced the cashier in grocery stores, but there's still a human representative there who can address these kinds of problems that those kiosks cannot handle. So your focus as a developer isn't on the coding itself. The coding is just a tool to accomplish a task. So your real goal is to build that house or build that application. That's your real job, and you want to be focusing on that and see all the different coding tools that are out there and all the technology that's out there. Put them all together and provide a product for your customer. The hardest part about my job is not the actual coding itself. There's actually a lot of other things that come into play at my job. For example, there are 4 main phases that I go through at my job. The first one is understanding the customer need. You really need to know, is the customer asking me to fix a bug or implement a feature? Those are like one of the main ones. And you really need to make sure you understand that, because if you don't understand it very well and you code something and you give it to the customer, then they're gonna say that you didn't get the job done. So you really need to understand, what is the customer asking and what are the requirements for that application, for that feature. And then the second one is you want to create a proposed plan of action. So after you understand the customer need, you need to make a proposed plan of action. How are you going to implement this in the code? And then the third one is the actual coding, actually coding it up. And then the fourth one is integrating my code with someone else's code, because usually we have a team of developers. We have to integrate all of our code together, make sure that they work well together. And so the hardest part in this process, I would say, in the implementation of the features, the hardest part there is developing the plan, probably. And then for the bug fixes, the hardest part there is diagnosing the cause of the problem. And so those have nothing to do with the actual coding itself. And what I mean by that is that I can go for a day or a couple of days or maybe even weeks without actually writing any code. So for example, with a bug fix, like we can test our code and try to diagnose where the bug is happening. And then I end up, maybe I'll write a bug fix that only requires 2 lines of code that I have to change. And so that's what I mean by, it's not like I'm coding the whole day. It's really just a lot of testing, a lot of diagnosing, a lot of thinking about the problem, and then trying to figure out what are the 2 important lines of codes or 3 important lines of code that I need to change to fix the bug. All right, the last thing I'll say about this doubling down on your humanity, I really wanted to use that language intentionally, because I think that's how you can make sure that you're not replaced by an AI. Because I believe, philosophically speaking, that AI can never become a human, right? So AI can never, philosophically speaking, AI cannot be a human. And so if you want to make sure that you're not replaced by an AI, you need to ensure that you keep your humanity, double down on your humanity. That's why I use that language. So all this talk about AI replacing programmers or developers or humans, I don't think AI can replace a human, because AI was created by humans, and I don't think humans can create another human, except unless you're a parent and you have a child. But you get what I'm saying. Humans cannot create another human entity or human consciousness from a computer. And part of that philosophy comes from my background as a Christian. I believe that as Christians, we are created in the image of God. And so I don't think humans can ever create the image of God in a computer. And so that's where I get that philosophy from. All right, so those are the 3 tips that I have for you to make yourself AI proof. The first one is to learn how to code with AI coding tools, so that you're ahead of the curve when it comes to the rise of AI. Second one is learn C, so that you have a good foundation of how computers think and how programming actually is, like the foundations of programming. And then the third one is to double down on your humanity. Double down on what makes you human, that will separate you from AI. No matter how smart and advanced AI becomes, you will still have an advantage, because you are a human and you can do things that AI cannot do. And so those are the 3 tips I have for you. If you agree with me, let me know in the comment section, or if you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section. I'm curious to see what kind of thoughts you guys have. All right, like I mentioned earlier, if you're just starting off in your programming journey and you don't know where to start, you can download my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a 30-day guide where I teach you how to build those 4 beginner programming projects. It's really beginner friendly, and I go step by step on how to build each one and go through the tutorials that you need to build each one. So download that in the link in the description. All right, that's it for this week's video. I hope it really helped you out and got you thinking about AI and how to make sure that you're not replaced by AI. So I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.